Mike, would you lead our devotion?
Lord God, just thank you so much for the many blessings. Lord, watch over us through these heat waves that we're having. Lord, just ask tonight that you will stand with us, Lord, and give us what we stand in need of to do the right things for the city of Leslie. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's good.
How are you? Okay, roll call. Hayden.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
Mitzi.
Here.
Randy.
Here.
Bonnie.
Here.
Donald. Here. Mary Jagger.
Here.
All present.
Y'all received your packet for you had your old minutes in it, the last meeting of June 3rd. Any discussion on those? Corrections? If not, I will need a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Got a motion made to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2024. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, old business from previous meetings, sorry. So, new business for this meeting, and first up to bat, Joe Michael.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you all. My name is Joe Michael Stoddard. Thank you very much. I have been working on getting the community center building up to code, and I run into a huge block. I was working with BJ Ray, who is the health department inspector. I saw with him on Friday. He was talking to me about what we needed to do to bring it up to code. He was using Damascus as a community center that has that functions with a community center that's up to code. They, however, have a 501c3 that operates their community center, whereas we do not currently. And I personally am not interested in starting a 501c3. But what he did say is, as it is now, if people rent it, if they lease the building, they can do whatever they would like. But as it stands, we can't just like have a big public picnic and feed people out of it unless someone's rented it and it's a private affair. It can't be open to the public at large, is what he's saying. However, what I have come to realize is that I thought it was going to be putting in equipment, bringing it up to code, but they want an entity to be responsible in case someone gets food poisoning or whatever. So that would need to be addressed before they can approve it for the health department. So that's what I found out. That's where I'm at. Is currently I've just done plans. There's been nothing done, nothing raised, no money has changed hands. It's all been people saying, yes, I will do this when we get ready to do this. And now that I just don't think I can move forward with this at all. I don't know what to do with that. So that's where we stand with the community center. I'm still doing maintenance. I go in every other Tuesday, pick up the trash, switch out the toilets. Got to fix the toilet seat this week. So that's basically what I had to present this evening. So if anyone had any questions on
I do.
Okay.
The people that you had talked to previously about doing upgrades, regardless of whether it's used for a soup kitchen, whatever the case may be, are those people still willing to
Yes.
help do the upgrades?
Yes, they are.
So we should just go ahead and do the upgrade.
Okay, well, this is the issue I've run into with the, health department, is that the plumbing that we have currently will not accommodate what they want. They want us to have a mop sink, they want us to have not in the kitchen area.
Well, that's what I was asking,
Yeah.
if we could go ahead and do these upgrades.
Well, if the city council would like for me to do that, I will continue on that and get the sinks and get everything installed. But I don't know to what end anymore. But I still have people that are willing to give.
How many days a week or times a month were you gonna do this?
Probably maybe once a month that we would be doing
Well, is there a way that, for the legality of it, like maybe if the city leased it
Well,
to you, rent it to you, like
if
for
we
a
lease
dollar
it to us,
each
then
time
we
and
can do
then?
whatever, but my goal
Per
was,
day.
yeah, my goal was to just get the building up to code.
Right.
And I thought it was a matter of just getting the equipment installed, but like I said, they want an entity that says, we are running this kitchen and we have the policies and procedures and we have the person with everything that we need as far as like, safe serve, the
Right.
food service things and that sort of thing. So, but as far as putting in the equipment, I still have people that are more than happy to do that.
So, back to the city
Yeah.
council,
Yes.
does the city council want to move forward with putting the
Yeah.
triple sink in the hand wash station, knowing that it won't go up to code with the health department?
I don't see the point.
Okay. Now, with that being said, that's not done, but with that being said, there's nothing to say that you, as an individual, can't rent the space and have a block party,
Okay.
you know, and loosely speaking, and have
Right.
your event
Uh-huh.
to feed hungry people.
Let's pass out invitations.
And it could be right? I mean, that's,
So, well, my goal had just been for the community center to make it so where it's really up to snuff.
right.
But,
Right.
I mean, it's up to snuff as it is now.
So as I,
For what we're doing, but in the future, I mean, codes change all the time.
as I spoke to earlier,
Mhm.
I believe to somebody else that came in the office,
Mhm.
a desire of mine is to convert the community center into a storm shelter, one, with a full generator on it,
Mhm.
to where if there was a tornado, whatever, we would have a safe space to go. With the full generator, if we lost power in town, a cooling station, whatever. With some other things, so I will still work to get grants, and then in that, we could move forward with the triple sink and get it.
Right on, well, I
You know.
still have people who are willing to donate
Do the-
funds
right.
and whatever, when that time comes. I just need to know when that time is gonna be here, and it's
Okay.
not anytime soon.
Okay.
But here's the question. Are you willing to be responsible?
The thing is that I am not willing to be the person who is gonna be running the kitchen, if that's what you're asking. Like, they want a 501c3 type organization if it's not the city of Leslie running it.
I understand that, but 501c3 is.
That's what they would require.
That's just, but that's just paperwork. If you did it under a ministry does not have to have a 501c3 to be tax exempt.
Right, I understand that, but it's a community center and not a church.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
but what I'm trying to say is, a ministry
Okay.
does not need a specific building.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, those are just things you can look at.
okay.
And however you wanna work this fine with me.
But how can the ministry take over city property as a?
They can lease it by the day,
Okay,
rent it by the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, and then it doesn't have to be.
And then it doesn't have to be anything.
Then we go back
Uh,
to that whole situation.
The apartments in Misty lives in, when I started my church, we were borrowing, renting, whatever, that, community center there for our church. So,
Well,
Thank you.
I think that's basically presented what I'm gonna be
Okay.
presenting. So, and if there's no other questions, that I can answer. I believe can't answer any more.
Very well.
So thank you very much for your time, and I will stay in the loop with what's going on at the community center.
Next question, will you come back when you would like to move forward with anything else?
I will.
Okay.
I will. I
This
just-
isn't dead.
No.
Okay.
I don't find that at all. I'm just telling you where
Okay.
it stands as of now, what the hurdles that there are
Very well.
to deal with. And so, but I'm still gonna, look at different avenues and all
You
that
bet.
sort of stuff.
Mr. Davis, the community center was that a grant for that, and what limitations do they have?
It
So at
was a
one time there
grant.
was discussions.
At the time, they had a whole big booklet of the activities that were supposed to be there, like a senior center, and Head Start was part of it. And I've still got all that
And
information.
no church.
Right.
That's what it said.
But my understanding is all that's expired.
It's been, since the '70s, so you'd think it would,
I can look into that and see if.
Yeah, that's what I'd say, say,
I
look
can look
into
into
that
that.
and see what
Yeah.
see where we're
Yeah.
standing now and go from,
You bet.
cause they may be something that.
Any other questions, council? I am going to turn the table over to Mr. Harris, Chris Harris, with our rate study. As everybody knows, Act 605 dictates to us that we had to do a rate study,
Sir?
on our water and sewer.
Same copy you'll have, pretty much.
So this is law.
Just includes the
Um,
certificate.
And Chris is with Arkansas Rural Water Association, and he is the bigwig there,
Yeah, not the big wig.
next to the bigwig.
There you go.
He's a pretty sight, next to Dennis. And this is the same, well, I'll let Chris speak to this, but I believe this is the same.
Chooses me.
The only thing different, it's got a letterhead to it.
And the last page would be different because it's a rate study certificate. So we have to certify that
Pass
we've
them out
done
if anybody wants.
it. Yeah.
Anybody wanna see what we're discussing?
We give it to the
I'll share one down here.
Okay. Anybody
Elizabeth,
else?
you mind if you're
We're on different ones.
Different
Lots of
water.
numbers. I've looked at it.
Oh, right on. There's lots of numbers.
Thank you, sorry.
Alright, so as I'm going through this, if y'all have any questions, just stop me. Cause I go through some of the times a little faster than I should. And I know this is a lot of, information in such a short time. So basically the first page, that's just a cover letter stating that we're doing this to be in compliance with Act 605, which requires any utility under 500 connections to have their rate study completed and turned in by July 1 of 2025, or 2024. And then 500 to 1,000 is 2025, 1,000 above is 2026. So y'all are coming in just at the right time. This is the day to do it. All right, so on page 2, one of the requirements of Act 605 is that any system that serves water and wastewater and has their systems audited together, not separately, has to put 5% of your gross annual revenue of water and wastewater back in a separate account called a replacement refurbishment account. Okay? So what you're gonna see, we're gonna break it down on in the rate study, but on this first page of that 214,350, that is a total combined revenue. And that revenue is from anything and everything. It don't matter if you sold me a brass part, 5% of that has to go back into a separate account called replacement refurbishment. So this includes your taps, your deposits, any water sold, any parts sold, anything like the equipment sold, anything to that nature, okay? So of that 5% of your total, it's gonna be 10,717 annually. Every year you'll put back that 5%. So once these rates go into place, that's gonna be your minimum that you have to set back every year.
Good. Chris.
whatever, I'll answer either one.
$10,717. Do we have to keep a balance of that, or do we have to add $10,717 to that every year?
Okay, so originally, in Act 605, it had to be specified by the council what that money was used for. It could not be any kind of routine maintenance. It had to be upgrade or things like that. Now, fast forward to Act 545 in 2023, they changed the stipulation. That money can be used, it's not supposed to be used for regular routine leaks, but they had a $1,000 minimum in that. Well, it'll cost you $1,000 to fix a 10-inch main or a 6-inch main out here. I mean, parts have gone that crazy outside, so, I mean, pretty much anything's gonna fall in that purview. You can use that money. If you put it back, you can use it on replacing or anything like that. New pumps, new lines, new meters, whatever you decide to do that with.
Okay, so just to make sure that I'm understanding, let's say we have to put this $10,717 into separation.
Yep.
You know, there has to be another account, there has to be separation.
Has to be in another account, a separate account.
Separate account?
We have an R&R account already
Get
set
that.
up.
Okay, we have this in a separate account. At the end of the fiscal year, can we remove that first $10,000 and start another $10,000?
As long as you're doing it to repair your system. If you're putting it back into your system, some kind of maintenance or replacement, yes. That money can be used at any time. If you had a lightning strike and 2 lift stations went down and you needed that $10,000 that you've got in there, absolutely, you can use it for that.
Okay.
But you can't just put it in a general fund with not a specific thing on
No. Nope.
Is there any stipulation that says at the end of the year, we have to replenish that?
No, you just have to put 5% annually.
So
if
we
you
put
use
5% annually and we use it,
Yeah,
we met the criteria.
absolutely. As long as you can show that, look, I took in $214,000 this year, we put $10,000 in that account, we spent $9,000 on pumps, and we've only got $1,000 in there, that's okay. As long as you've got receipts to show what you use that money for.
Okay.
And it wasn't just to transfer to pay salaries. You can't do stuff like that. It's gotta be some kind of replacement refurbishment into the infrastructure of your system.
Okay.
All right, so page 3. Skipping down to 3A, the rate study needed information. First line is your yearly loan, principal and interest. So your minimum bill is reserved for your principal and interest payments. That's what that minimum bill is supposed to be used for. Now, I'll tell you, probably 95% or better, especially cities, their minimums have always been higher than what was needed. Because that was the easiest way to go up in revenue, was to add into the minimum. So what this rate study is going to show is your minimum should nowhere be that, but your per thousand cost would be astronomical. So when we get down through here, your minimums did not change at all, and probably moving forward, your minimums shouldn't change anytime. From now on, you'll go up on the per thousand rate, because that's what AWWA says it should be used for. The minimum should be reserved for principal and interest loan payments only. Okay? Total amount of gallons of water sold, this is in million gallons, so that's 13,015,000. Total amount of gallons of water pumped, 23,667,000. Total number of active customers, 290. Total revenue from metered sales, and this is metered and non-metered, 255,248. Total operating expenses per year, 191,340. Payments to reserve and SLA accounts, so reserves and short-lived asset accounts are usually on a letter of conditions from USDA or ANRC. It's a loan that you take out, and what they put on there is stipulations that you will fund up to a year of that note, or you're going to fund something like this replacement refurbishment. Most USDA notes require you to fund some kind of short-lived asset fund. Works the same way as principal or the replacement or refurbishment. So if you have any, we offset those, but you do not have any requirements. All right, so top of page 4, that is the payment to the replacement and refurbishment. So on the water side, 5% of what you took in would have been $12,800. Calculated total yearly cash requirement. Now, I take that back. So you do have a depreciation that's built into that as well. So when you see that 10,000 up there in the front, you say, well, why is that one higher? You're already funding something to that nature. This is minimum 10,000. You're already funding a partly of depreciation of 3,800, I believe. So it was about 9,000 is what your 5% mark was. But like I said, we can offset some of that. Calculated total yearly cash requirements, $220,000. Calculated debt service per month per customer. This is your minimum, that $464. Calculated operating cost per thousand, funding depreciation, $15.68. So if you done it directly like AWWA wanted, they would have you a $4 minimum and $15 per thousand after that. Now we don't do that. So calculated shortage revenue, that is not a shortage. You actually have a small surplus of $34,000. That's what them parentheses mean. It means you have a surplus of revenue. Calculated average bill per customer per month, 68 or 63.30. Calculated minimum bill with 1,000 gallons is $20.33. Calculated yearly average percent water loss, 45%. That's something you're going to see in my recommendations that probably need to work to get that down. Now that does not take into account, because y'all are in a special circumstance, remember that you have a minimum you have to buy. So a lot of systems, I know that if they weren't exceeding the minimum, they didn't put a lot of effort into it. I would encourage any system to make sure that you try to get that number down as low as it can be. That way when those major leaks do occur, you're still falling underneath that minimum. All right, so on page 5, this is a new requirement of all rate studies. It's a debt service coverage ratio. So what that means is we're going to take your revenue minus your operating expenses, which gives us our net operating revenue. So if you look at that, we're at $255,248 in revenue, $191,340 in operating expense, which gives us a net operating revenue of $63,908. And we divide that by your annual debt, your annual principal and loan payments. So that gives you a 3.96. 1.1 is the minimum. 1.2 is kind of the mark that they want you at to loan any kind of money. You're at a 3.96. People say, oh my God, we're collecting way too much money. No, not when you're a water and wastewater company, because you're going to see at the end of this where the wastewater, excuse me, is going to kind of offset that. Your total combined is what we've got to look at when it comes to A&RC, their rules and regulations. Okay, so basically on page 6, you bet.
This 45%, is that better than it has been in the past? Or do you know?
I cannot tell you. I know in years past it probably is. Some years it is, some years it isn't. All right, so on page 6, it just lays out your rates currently. And basically, since you are making money over and above what you need, there's no recommended rate change. I can't tell you you've got to change your rates when you're making money, and you are. It breaks down average customer usage, which is about 3,700 for the city of Leslie. But that's quick and easy page because there's no changes. All right, when you go to page 7, that's when we start the wastewater. All right, so yearly payment of loan, principal, and interest. You have $15,648 in principal, loan, and interest payments. Total amount of gallons sold is 10,684,000, and you see that pumped is the same. That's because you don't really measure the wastewater. You're taking about 80% of the water sold, or if you have a good accurate figure, we can use that there. So it's basically based on 80%. Total number of active customers, 211. Total total revenue from metered sales, and that's all you have in wastewater, unless you have some kind of connection fee, which I don't think there was any connections during this year. So that's completely metered, which is 86,262. Total operating cost per year, 83,390. So you can already see you're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit on this one. Payment to a reserve and SLA account, 0. Payment to replacement refurbishment, that's gonna be your 5,000.
Is that 5,000 separate to the 10?
So as long as you can show combined, so if you pulled in 300 and something thousand next year, as long as you can show you put 5% of that total combined revenue back, which will be about 15,000, you're in the clear. So calculated debt service customer per month, $6.18. Calculated operating cost per thousand is $8.27. So your calculated shortage of revenue in your wastewater department is about $17,776. Calculated average bill per customer per month is about $41. All right, so on page 9, so we have to figure a debt service coverage ratio on your wastewater as well. Same way to calculate this. What your current revenue is bringing in is a 0.18 on your DSCR. Remember that minimum requirement is at 1.1. So once we implement the new rates, should bring you up down, if you look down there to the bottom of page 9, at a 1.33, which will have you over that mark. And that's due, the 3.96, the 1.33, that's due to y'all not having a lot of debt currently. Your minimums are higher, you're bringing in enough money, but you don't have a lot of debt. The more debt, the lower that number is going to drop. All right, so on page 10, we look at the current wastewater rates. A minimum bill of $20.25 with 1,000 gallons. All over 1,000 gallons is $3.92. With 211 customers at $28.25, you should be bringing in about $51,273. We take out that 1,000 gallons that each customer gets in the minimum, which is about $2,532,000 a year. That leaves us with about 8,152,000 billable gallons from the per 1,000 rate. With that, right now, currently, you're bringing in about $31,955 for a total of $83,288, which is pretty close. So I calculated that off the rates you give me, and if you look back at your operating revenue, you're at about 86. That's pretty close. As long as you're within $5,000 or $6,000 from what I calculated to what you brought in, I'm not too worried. All right, so the new recommended wastewater rate. Minimum bill stays the same at $20.25. Remember, that's principal, interest, and loan payments, so you've got more than enough covered there. We're going up to $6.50 a thousand, all over 1,000 gallons. So the minimum calculation stays the same, 51,000. Same thing on the water used in the minimum billable gallons. That'll bring the per thousand cost, their total revenue up to about $52,988. If you look right there, Lonnie pointed it out, I do have a typo, because I do use this as a template, because I do several of these a week. That should be 51,273 plus 52,988, not 351,000. Still comes out to the $104,261, which gives you a total increase of revenue of $20,973. So total projected water revenue, new projected wastewater revenue, $255,248 on your water, $104,000 on your wastewater, brings you to about $359,509. And I do see another typo. And that's going to be on the first page. All right, on page 11. So now here's where we do combine. You notice on page 2 I had 10,000, but that's not correct. It should have been 18,000 combined. So your first year's revenue should be $359,509. Your R&R account should be a total of $18,000 you put back annually. Total expenses, $274,730. That's total debt, water and wastewater, at $31,798. That's gonna bring your combined debt service coverage ratio to a 2.67. It's a good place to be. And I will get those corrections made before you submit this. One thing that they asked that we put in all rate studies now is looking at all the cash available on hand for water and wastewater. If you were not collecting rates, not collecting bills for whatever reason happened, how long you could operate on the money you have on hand. And with your $131,922, an average of $752 a day operation cost, you've got about 175 days of reserve before you went belly up, basically. I don't see a reason you would ever not collect bills. But in the instance something did happen, tornado or something come through and took out all the power in all your billing system and you lost everything, and it took you a month or two to get up and going, that would be the only instance as a natural disaster. Alright, page 11 or 12. So this is where we talk about the recommendations. So basically, AWWA recommends, and the Department of Health will not give you a significant efficiency, but they'll write you up if you're not at 15% or less in water loss. Like I said, currently you're sitting at about 45%. So that needs to be a target that you get down to, try to get down to there. I will say on a lot of older systems, it is harder because there is an allowable leakage for every joint of pipe you have in the ground. And you gotta remember, you've got a lot of old galvanized, a lot of old AC pipe. 15%, maybe hard to get there. But if you can try to get down to that 15 to 25, that would be probably a really good mark to be at. At least under 25 with a system this old.
So if it counts as whatever we're not selling, is there a way to figure out that percentage to know? You see what I'm saying? Because if it's what we're not selling, it's not like a fault, really. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It depends on how much over the minimum you are, yeah. But that's one thing to think of when we get down to the third recommendation. And the second recommendation is just what I just said, the $6.50 per thousand on the wastewater. To adjust your per thousand on the wastewater to $6.50. That's it. Third recommendation, I've got an annual increase of 3 to 5%. Okay, the reason I give y'all a range of 3 to 5% is because you gotta remember, if you're a water purchase system, if your wholesale rate goes up 3%, keep in mind, the water you're buying, you're not selling 100%. So if they give you a 3% increase, it may be, if you're at a 50% water loss, it could be a 6% you have to pass on. Now, being under the minimum, that's gonna change that a little bit. That's the reason I say 3 to 5. You gotta look at it annually. I encourage you to look at it annually. You don't have to have an Act 605 rate study, but there's gonna be years 3% is just not gonna cut it. I have seen one water company, their expenses increased 40% over 1 year. Now that was a few things. There was a lot not being done until a new manager took over, and then they had a lot of catching up to do. That's not really the case here. I don't see a 40% increase, hopefully, but it's one of those things, 3% probably won't cut it every year. Just electrical cost of equipment, parts, salaries, everything goes up. So you'll have to adjust accordingly. The fourth recommendation is one thing that I put in every rate study. One thing you really need to look at as a council, your job is to set policies and procedures, and you've got to look at your cutoff policies. Are they being followed? And are you charging enough to do it? That's the problem. If you're paying somebody to go out there and cut this water off and they're driving 40 miles to cut off water, that's going to there and back, because it's 2 trips every time, regardless. If you're charging $10, $20, you're probably not even paying your fuel costs. You're going in the hole, you're taking a loss. And the thing to remember about this is a business. It is the most important business in any community because economic development rests on the back of what y'all do in water and wastewater. Without water and wastewater, you don't have economic development in any community. So keep in mind, you sit on one of the most important boards and businesses of any community, and you've got to look at these things and make sure that your cutoffs, you're charging enough, your taps, cost of meters have gone skyrocketed way up, cost of pipe, brass has gotten a lot higher since we removed all lead. So make sure that you're not putting a meter in for $500 and it's costing you $750. Evaluate those costs, at least annually. The asset management plan, that's something that Mr. Davis and the mayor, I think, are working on. Really, this is not an asset management plan they're asking for. You're doing an asset list with a few extra pieces of information as far as annual maintenance cost, data replacement. And when you get that, I encourage you to look at it because like 90% of the cities in the state, you have aging infrastructure. The life of any system is the length of that note, which was probably a 40-year USDA note. Anybody know when our system was put in?
Pardon? I was writing those.
You know when the original system was put in?
The original has been changed over in 2003.
Okay.
The original would have been put in the 70s, I believe.
So the galvanized and the AC pipe, probably 70s.
No, the water would have been put in the late 50s.
Late 50s. So the length of your system would have been about 1995. So keep in mind, for the last 30 years, you're living on borrowed time. Water and wastewater are always last to the table to get things done like this. But as a board, it's something you've got to start thinking about. For 30 or 50 years, you've been living on, or 30 years, you've been living on borrowed time. Make sure you've got a plan going forward to replace it. And that's what this asset list is going to look at. You're going to see a lot of your lines were put in the 50s. A lot of your wastewater may have been put in the 70s, 80s, other than the plant, probably. So you're at the end of your life cycle. They recommend you replace 2% a year. Is that practical? Absolutely not. Any system that can replace 2% a year, I probably don't want to live on because their rates are going to be astronomical. But if you've got a plan in place and you are making replacements and kind of allocations for stuff like this, you're where you need to be.
Are we regulated by the PSC?
No, sir. No. Public water utilities are not regulated. Public Service Commission. Only private. The last page, the only thing you're going to see on that is just the rate study certificate. We have to put that with every rate study we do. That's a requirement. That just states that it was an unbiased look at your rate structure. And I didn't say, well, I like people of City Leslie, we're going to try to keep it lower.
But you do though, right?
Yeah, I'm going to do, but I've got to put a statement in here that I didn't show you any preferential treatment. Like I said, that's a lot of information really quick. You got any questions?
So if we're talking nuts and bolts of this, and we're talking, if the average user is 37.49, okay, if that's the gallons that we're talking going up $2.58 per thousand. So we're actually talking about the bill would be $7.16 more, approximately. I
Yeah.
didn't do.
Yeah,
And that's just the wastewater per thousand over. It's not the basic rate, it's the first 1,000 is $20 and a quarter or whatever, but it's the per thousand over is $2.58.
which, yeah, I mean, you're looking at $7, $8 total. Which
For
I'll
the
tell you.
average
Per
user.
thousand.
No, you're going up from $3.90 to $6.50. You're going up about $2.60 a thousand.
$2.58.
So, I mean, you're looking at around a little over $5. $5.20, 30 cents on 3,000 gallons. Now, if you use 4,000, 5,000, it's gonna
Well,
go
if you use
more.
9,000 gallons. I just got through watering 18 of my 36 trees. I got strawberry plants everywhere, and I'm paying sewer on all this crap that I ain't using.
Then you're going to about $16, $17, $18.
Did you only have to buy fruit? Come on, Ray.
For 10 years. Yeah, well, after 10 years.
But before the taps get readjusted and looked at, you may be looking at a separate tap just for watering gardens and maybe cheaper. We're only paying water rate on it. There you go. I will tell you, of the rate studies I've done, you're the second lowest increase that I've done. So, I mean, my hat's off to you. Most of them are almost doubling. $5 to $8 a thousand on water and $3 to $5 a thousand on sewer.
Yeah, we got pretty aggressive last
We
fall.
just took it pretty hard.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
in February of last year, it was went from $43 on a basic bill to 66, so 20-something
Yeah,
dollars.
you took a pretty good hit. Well, that's, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's where everybody's falling.
Since our water is in surplus, what would prevent, like, what would be a reason to not kind of offset it and lower the water bill, the amount that we're raising the sewer bill?
What do you mean?
I mean, since right now our water income is covering the
Okay,
sewer costs,
I see where you're going.
why not?
The
keep
problem is, the
income
way
same?
they look at that is these are two separate businesses and they've gotta be run as such.
Right. So since our
So
water's in surplus,
you're looking at a totally separate business. You're looking at one business that is doing well and has a surplus and another one that has a deficit. You
right,
can't,
but everyone's bill is the same, right? Everyone gets the one bill.
it's billed on one bill, but you've gotta keep them separate.
Right, so what would be a reason to not lower the water bill, since it's.
You can if
we're
you
in
owe money.
surplus?
If you owe money, you cannot lower water rates without a letter from that lender saying you can. And unless you're doing 100% over, they will not lower water rates. That would be, no, they won't, it won't happen. Once you're there, you're there. It'll never be cheaper than it is today. Going forward, even though you have a small surplus, you're still gonna have to go up 3% in a year. These recommendations, I say recommendations, they're just a way to make it feel better.
Requirements.
It's law. Once we put it in there, it's law. So once you've got 1 year to implement the wastewater rate.
So my question to you, Chris, is,
But
this is the way it will be,
yeah, you've got 1 year to
and we
implement the
have
new rates.
1 year to implement.
Yes.
And
every year thereafter, you've gotta go up a minimum of
3 to
3%
5.
on water and wastewater going forward.
so
Even
I've
if our
read,
surplus increases for some reason, or if we're exceeding the
The way they look at it,
FCR.
because the thing is, you may have a small surplus this year, but all it takes is one good main break, one good lift station with a lightning strike, and you're back down to nothing. Because that money you should already had in a account, and you should already been replacing lines. So you've got millions upon millions of dollars of need that's not being addressed. So a $17,000, $20,000 surplus, they're gonna look at you and say, no, not even close, brother.
And we may have a surplus, but the liner is an expense, and aren't we up for permit? And that could
Yes.
change our,
yes,
Yeah,
our circumstances,
you could.
and
We're up
so
for
that could be a big
Well,
cost.
every changing regulation, I mean, as regulations change on Ozark Mountain, you're gonna incur them costs.
so we got a letter today, Mr. Davis, and he did a little math, and our water from South Mountain went up. How much was it?
14%.
The water that we buy went, well, that was an initial quick look, so it went up 14%.
I was just comparing, if I figured this month's bill with the new rates, it would have been that much higher than, I don't really know what they raised it, but
It didn't change much, I think they went up 4% is what they went up. But now they did away with the declining rate structure, so they, just like y'all, they're charging, everything's the same. I don't know if they did that on y'all,
They did.
okay,
We got a letter in the mail today.
okay.
A little
That's where it
sticker that
comes-
says the
Yeah.
rate's going up, so
And that's,
It's a flat rate and then per
per thousand over.
and going forward, they're going up a minimum of 3% a year. Get
So
ready.
we'll have to,
So my recommendation moving forward is the ordinance that I've kind of drafted already, I was going to present tonight, but I think, talking to, Municipal League, that we could implement it, and Darla Brooks, that we could implement it January 1st. And then also implement our 3% moving forward and say we will raise our rates 3%.
Yep.
Annually,
And
by ordinance. So we don't have to have these discussions every year. It's just an automatic 3 or 5%, whatever. So price of stuff ain't going down. So anyways,
you probably won't see as big of a surplus. If you went up 3% January, the end of next year, you won't see that surplus probably. Because Ozark Mountain's going up at least 3%. So you're gonna get at least a 4 to 5% increase. At a minimum. Some wholesalers are going up 13% for the next 3 years. You got one wholesaler that's doing that.
I'm moving out of the city.
I wouldn't. That wholesaler's down there, they're going up 13% every year on their
I moved
cities.
out of the country, put it back on way away.
There you go. But, I mean, that's just the nature of it. The reason it's 3 to 5% is I can tell you, people on fixed income can handle a 3% increase per year rather than y'all doing the $20 like y'all did last February. I promise, that's been tried, true, and proven. It's easier to handle $1, $1,000, or $3 on a total bill rather than waiting 5 years and saying, hey, let's go up $20 or $30. Any other questions?
Just council's information, the R&R fund has already been set up. Last year, we put in $20,000 into that. This year, we've already put in $20,000 into that. And we have, out of that money, paid the company for the skirt, for the sewer plant. So that's how we've used it so far.
And that's good. That's what that money's designed to do. It's getting harder and harder to get grants. So if you have to come for $15,000, $20,000 repair, if you don't have that money in hand, they're not wanting to look at you.
So there's a minimum that we put back, but there's no fault in putting more than that if we want to.
No, sir. I can tell you one thing that they've already changed on us is if you take a loan from ANRC, they're requiring a minimum of 6% be put back. So if you've got any kind of match funds with ARPA, if you've got an ARPA project on the waiting list, which I know y'all do, and y'all are pretty high on the list, I don't know the stipulations if y'all have any matching funds with that. None? You're gonna be good, but those ones that have matching funds, they're requiring 6% be put back in the replacement refurbishment account. New set of rules every legislation period. Same thing with any board members. Any of y'all elected after 2023 of April, you've got 1 year to get your 8-hour training. Going forward, any new board members that come on, they have 1 year to get 8 hours worth of training.
where do you do that at?
There's 2 different places. You can come to us. Ours don't start until September, October, November, and December. Or SAU Tech offers them throughout the year. Most of ours are in Lone Oak.
What I was fixing to say, down there at your,
The one in September will be offered in Hot Springs.
The one they just did that recorded, can they do those?
If SAU Tech recorded one,
Was it Hot Springs? Didn't Hot Springs record? the one that-
no. No, it don't count. You have to be either in present or in person, or I think they do have a Zoom with SAU Tech that you can do. You can look into that and see. They should have some Zoom classes if you don't wanna go down there for the one day.
I don't wanna do Zoom, I'd rather drive down there.
8-hour Zoom class, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I couldn't handle
So,
that.
Chris, to close this up, what needs to happen? Nothing other than,
You got 1 year,
we got
so,
1 year to implement,
yeah. And-
but this is new, this is law.
Yeah. So they're gonna come back in July 1 and they're gonna say, show me the ordinance and show me your rate structure where you went up to this.
Okay.
Or you're gonna write us
Based
a
off of
letter,
the
tell
rate
us how
study.
long it's gonna take you to do it, yeah.
Based off your rates, okay. So,
And January is one of the best times. There's different times of the year you probably don't want to. I know some systems right now are having to. But right now in the middle of summer, when everybody's watering trees,
garden.
or they're filling up pools, that's a big expense to incur all of a sudden when they wasn't expecting it. Usually anytime after Christmas, Thanksgiving, first of the year, it's a lot easier to accept, because you're using generally less water.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You bet.
And thanks for working with us to get this done on time.
Yes, sir.
You're welcome to stick around, or.
You bet. I'll watch.
Okay. The fire department grant, we received, would like to congratulate you on a successful rural community grant application, Brad. So he has, is working with the company to, order the turnouts. So I think measuring on Thursday, is that what you said?
Not this Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yes.
So, congratulations, we've already received the check, so it's
What's the
deposited
amount again?
$13,724.85. And it's a 50-50 match, so the turnouts were 27,000
27
and some change. So, that's 10 sets of turnouts. Speaking to that, if either one of y'all, there's a governor's award, she's gonna present that, August the 6th. I'll just need any council members y'all can go to, just I need to know the names so I can present that and let them know who's gonna show up. So, August the 6th, 10 a.m., the governor's. Yep. Okay. Election, there is an election coming up, despite what some people were told. Some people were told it's not an election year. Come to find out, it is an election year. And I have affidavits and petitions if any one of y'all need it, or anybody in the audience needs it. So, council, Mr. Davis.
Let me just go ahead and.
Okay. And
That's all.
one thing to note on there, you have to put your ward, and position that you're seeking election for,
Let's do that.
so.
One second.
Searcy County Courthouse, they have these books running for public office. There's a box of them by Mr. Cotton's desk. So I've already ripped a few pages out of this one, but,
Did you do not?
I'm sorry, yeah. There was a news article that came out today, from THV 11, that the governor is opening up $55 million more dollars, $60 million more dollars for the water infrastructure. $5 million of that has already been earmarked to Chris, to Arkansas Rural Water. Congratulations. That money will go, I was talking to Chris earlier, to help them buy generators and pumps and stuff that can go into communities, and like when they have a tornado, they can set up and they can help but congratulations, you all needed that. Now, the $55 other million, you know we're number 8 on the waiting list for the ARPA money. I spoke to Chris Closure at Arkansas Municipal League, begging for money a couple weeks ago. And he said your project needs to be shovel ready. And that's the big buzzword, shovel ready. You have to have, anyways, long story short, I found this out today. I got on the phone with Tim Mays and we got a conference call with Chris. And it sounds a little promising. I'm a little cautiously optimistic. But what we're planning on doing is that project that just got awarded, the $280,000 grant, is we're going to kind of change order that, amend that to where we can roll this into it. Hopefully. We're meeting tomorrow with Tim Mays. Alex and I are gonna meet tomorrow with Tim Mays and kind of outline what we want done. So, fingers crossed. So, it's a lot of money and we need it. So, that's where we're at with that. The award ceremony for the grant on 6 August. The annexation for the areas in town that don't appear to be in the voting district. Your house, Jim Adams. Spoke to Jeff Cotton today and he assures me it will be fixed. So they're voting in the city anyway. So we will have it fixed by election. Christmas in July. If you'd like to speak any more to that, or
Just encourage people to get out and participate with, I would tell you that I would say that every business in town is participating and is participating to the point that there will be ginormous, is the term I'm going to use, basket prize to be won at the end of this. What we're looking at is extending it, the main event, as far as fundraiser and things like that, it's going to be on the 13th. There will be some bonus entries to be had to where you can be in the drawing, but you will have to fill out your passport completely. So you would have to visit all the businesses listed on the passport in order to get your entry into the drawing to be able to be in the drawing for the gift basket. But it's pretty amazing, gift cards to the restaurants. There's a 1 ounce silver piece from Leslie Antiques.
Thank you.
And so that's, that could change in value over time, which could be amazing. So there's lots of very cool stuff going in there. So please be supportive of your Leslie businesses and thank them as you can, and then encourage your friends to come out during the month of July. So
thank you. I'm looking to host another event in October. Details to come out. I'm working with a car club and trying to bring a car show. So it might even be a car show with a Jeep club together. I don't know. We'll see.
head to head.
Head to head.
Why don't we talk to the homecoming committee and get the homecoming put into September?
Well, let's bring that up. Let's bring it up to the homecoming committee. Can we?
Can't say that we haven't thrown that idea out there before too.
She'll work on it. That's what it sounds like. There's new Welcome to Leslie signs, should be installed shortly. I don't know when. The metal was just brought in this past week. The mounting hardware. The signs, we already have them. but they will be, the VFW American Legion have donated all of it. So the north one will be installed and the east one will be installed, coming from the one down at Red River. That's a big problem. It's on the right of way of the highway department and they don't want us to put it there. So their right of way goes 150 feet, which is way up that mountain. So anyways, we're looking at moving that sign. Don't know where yet, but we'll.
Is it grandfathered in for now?
Nope. Nope. They actually came and told us to cease and desist fixing the pillars on it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the new owner, or the owners of the properties affected, most of them, I believe, I've spoken to a few of them that are affected by this new bridge, have been notified by letter. And there is an appraiser that should be in town, or has been in town, I don't know, to talk to them. Paving is complete in town. There is a punch list that they still have to do. There's some shoulder work. There's a mailbox they need to fix, and take down the signs. So. There was an event that came through, totally unexpected, the other day for the bicyclers, the Arkansas Graveler.
There's a bunch of them.
There was
All right.
250 bikes, and we were expecting them to roll through, and we had a tent set up to give them water and splash them with water with the garden hose, and it was a storm. So we had to lift and shift, and what we did is we opened the community center, let them take shelter there, and it was a stop for about 2 hours for them. And with the help of a few people in the community, it was a big deal. We had balloons for them. I mean, it was a good deal. It was good visibility for the town. Some people I've heard already that they don't like seeing bicyclists on the dirt roads because it hinders, but I get it.
He donated.
And, oh yeah, they donated to the community center $224. So we had a jar out there and it says, hey, donations, and they gave $224. Speaking of donations, I received a $100 donation from Bob and Rose Roten for the area beautification for the flowers. So we've gave that to Mr. Davis. The bicyclists, nothing but praise about our community. I actually called one of our local businesses to come in to open store because they were freaking out for coffee. And
It was fun.
it was fun. Not everybody got to come up. They held them back there, I found out, at the community center, because they didn't want anybody on the road. But anyways, the lightning in the area. But it's a fun event. I was on the phone yesterday with a local person, and we're talking about bringing another bike event to the area. So, and this would be the hub. So, don't know when, but we're working on it. Chris, I have a question for you regarding the ordinance that I drafted. And I think I asked you at Municipal League, tapping fees, should it be in the ordinance or policy?
It can be either way. You're gonna pass an ordinance for tapping fees, or you can put them into this one. That's y'all's preference.
Any recommendation? Off the
6 one
cuff?
way, half a dozen the other.
Okay.
We did an ordinance or resolution for fees. Rates.
It would be an ordinance.
And remember, anytime you're raising wastewater rates, you've got
A
2
public
public
hearing.
hearings.
Gonna have 2 public hearings. So. Anyways. Okay, so I'll revisit that. That's all I have, council.
I have one more question
Yeah.
real quick for Chris. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Does unpaid water bills go with water loss?
No.
Okay.
No, unpaid water bills, just uncollected
Bad debt.
receivables that are still out there, yeah.
And we're getting better at collecting. I mean, it's, Mr. Davis, we're,
This was the shortest list of unpaid customers I've ever seen. It was really working.
trying. I'm
He
trying.
He is getting it done.
Update on meter for Jerry.
So the meter will go up top of the hill.
Okay.
I spoke to him today. And he had said he didn't care where the meter went. So it's gonna go right next to the line,
So it'll go from the top and he'll be responsible, or
Yep.
whoever, if they sell later
for the
on.
line.
So it'll be,
And that was a recommendation that we had discussed, correct?
I just knew last month it had changed, so.
Anything else, council?
Bike event, July 27th?
July.
27th, 10 to 12,
July what?
27th.
July
Last Saturday.
27th. And there is another bike event. This is back to school bike.
Yes.
Okay. What time?
10 to 12.